The clock stops. The body silences. The vital signs fade. For science, it's the end. But for some, it is just the beginning of a blind spot. A portal where the mind, at last, is set free. It is the moment when the breath ceases and the heart falls silent. Science, with all its precision, draws a rigid line. One side is life, the other is death. But what if this line is, in reality, a mirage? A construction of a reality that prevents us from seeing what really happens when we turn off. We're about to delve into the territory of the inexplicable, into what medicine calls the Lazarus phenomenon, where people pronounced dead suddenly, and without apparent reason, come back to life. But we are not talking about miracles. We are talking about something much more profound and unsettling, something that forces us to ask, could what we call death not be, in fact, a phase of transition, an experience of total expansion of consciousness, that our mind, trapped in its physical form, simply cannot process? If the mind is a universe, what happens when the body that contains it shuts down? Quantum physics already suggests that everything is energy and information. What if your memory, your essence, and your soul don't die, but are merely transferred to another state of being? Let's explore the mysteries of what neuroscience calls near-death experiences, the accounts of tunnels of light, of encounters with beings of pure energy, of life reviews in an instant. But let's go further. What science fails to explain is why these phenomena have such a profound and transformative impact on the lives of the people who return. They change. Their values are inverted. They lose their fear of death and often develop new abilities. A connection to something that is not of this world. What is this new memory they carry? A memory of a place we cannot access. Hermetic texts suggest that the soul, upon detaching from the body, undergoes a process of reorganization in a higher dimension. That death is, in fact, a recalibration, a download of information that the physical mind could not withstand, and that, for those who return, the download was interrupted. But the echo of the information remained. They became bridges, links between the physical and spiritual worlds. They are not miracles, but rather flaws in the system, leaks from a vaster reality. Science seeks an explanation, something rational. They talk about cerebral discharges, about lack of oxygen, about hallucinations. But how can a lack of oxygen generate an experience so vivid, so coherent, and often identical among people from completely different cultures and beliefs? The hallucination theory doesn't hold up in the face of the facts. Those who return do not see demons or monsters, but rather a sense of peace, of unity, of unconditional love. And what about those who, during a coma, accurately describe conversations and events that happened next to their beds while they were clinically unconscious? Their minds were turned off, their bodies inactive, but their consciousness was there, somewhere. What if consciousness is not housed in the brain, but is merely a receiver, an antenna that captures information from a universal energy field? The mind would be just the interface, and not the source. This would explain why, when the interface breaks, consciousness does not die, but merely loses its connection to our reality. It continues to exist, just in a different state, purer, more expanded. Principles of Eastern philosophy speak of a subtle body, a body of light or astral body that separates from the physical body at the moment of death. The near-death experience would be the forced return of this subtle body to the physical body, a shock between two realities. This would explain why some return with memories of a dimension that our mind cannot comprehend, with the certainty that life continues, that death is not an end. They are not crazy. They are just people who looked to the other side and came back. The Lazarus Effect is proof that our conception of death is wrong. That life is not a switch, but a flow. And that, somewhere between the last heartbeat and the declaration of death, there is a universe of possibilities. There is a silent conspiracy, a breach of the reality protocol that allows us to see what is beyond the veil. And the big question is, why does this happen? Why are some allowed to return? The answer may lie in our own genetics, in a biological switch that activates under extreme conditions. A last-ditch attempt by nature to remind us of who we truly are. Death, for nature, is not an end, but a transformation. Liberation. So, why does the system insist on keeping us tied to the idea that death is the end? Because the fear of death is the basis of all control. It is fear that prevents us from questioning, from exploring, from seeking the truth. If humanity lost its fear of death, what would happen? If everyone knew that life continues, that consciousness is eternal, what would be left for us? Nothing. The power of religions, institutions, the economic system itself would crumble. That's why information about the true nature of consciousness and death is so well hidden, so distorted. The Lazarus Effect is a well-kept secret, something that science minimizes and the media ignores, because the truth is much more dangerous than any lie. And the truth is that you are not your body. You are not your mind. You are your consciousness. You are eternal, and you have the power to reconnect to that consciousness at any moment. But how? The method is simple, but not easy. It involves deprogramming the mind, silencing the ego, and reconnecting with your essence. The first step is what we call death meditation. Death meditation is not about physically dying, but about facing the fear of death. It is about simulating the experience of leaving the body, so that when the moment comes, you are not afraid, but prepared. Sit in a quiet place, close your eyes, and visualize your body becoming heavy, inert. Imagine that your breathing becomes slow, then stops. Imagine that your heart slows down and finally falls silent. Do not run from the sensation. Embrace it. Feel your physical body fading away, but at the same time, feel your consciousness expanding. Visualize yourself as a light, a sphere of energy that is freed from the body. Feel the freedom, the lightness, the expansion. Travel beyond the borders of your room, your city, your planet. Feel connected to all things, to every star, every atom, every consciousness. This is your natural state, your state of being. Only the echo of your physical form prevents you from living this way now. This daily exercise, for just a few minutes, will begin to break the barriers that separate you from your true self. It will weaken fear and strengthen your consciousness. It will show you that death is an illusion, and that life is an eternal cycle of creation and transformation. But there is another secret. The hidden memory. The universe stores all information, all your past lives, all your fears, all your joys. Death is just a way to clean the hard drive, to release the weight. But the memory is not lost. It just becomes inaccessible to our physical brain. But your consciousness, your true self, has access to everything. The hidden memory is the name we give to the ability to access this information. And the way to access it is through a simple and powerful method, the dream journal. The dream is the bridge between the conscious and the unconscious, between physical and spiritual reality. Upon waking, immediately write down everything you remember, no matter how insignificant it seems. And don't just write down the events, but also the emotions, the symbols, the colors. Over time, you will begin to see patterns, to identify messages. The dream will become your GPS, the map to your hidden memory. It will guide you to past traumas, to unlearned lessons, to unmanifested gifts. It will reconnect you with your higher self. You will begin to remember things you have never lived, to understand the reason for your fears, to find the purpose of your soul. The Lazarus Effect is not just a phenomenon. It is a reminder, a whisper from the universe, a sign that life is much bigger than we can imagine, and that our destiny is not to die, but to awaken. The next step is the deconstruction of identity. Society teaches us who we are, our names, our professions, our titles, but none of that is real. Your identity is a construction, a mask you wear to interact with the world. But your essence is something that cannot be defined by words. It is a frequency, a vibration. The deconstruction of identity is the act of letting go of all masks. Start with a simple question. Who am I without my name? And then, who am I without my profession? Who am I without my possessions? Continue with this question, dismantling, layer by layer, everything you think you are. What remains is your true self, your eternal self, your consciousness. And when you reconnect with that consciousness, death becomes irrelevant. It is no longer a fear, but a passage. And life becomes a celebration, an opportunity to explore, to create, to love. To be. Your consciousness is your greatest power, and your body, your temple, not your prison. What Western medicine doesn't tell you is that disease is not a failure in the body, but a sign from the soul. The body, in reality, is just the mirror of your consciousness, and healing, the reflection of your reconnection with your true self. The so-called incurable diseases are, in fact, unlearned lessons, invitations to an inner journey, to the reunion with your essence, to the Lazarus Effect of your own life. Your memory is your greatest prison and your greatest power. The memory of the past, of mistakes, of traumas, traps you in a cycle of repetition. But the memory of the future, of your dreams, desires, frees you. Your future is not something that happens, but something you create. And the way to create it is through your consciousness. The memory of the future is the practice of visualizing what you want to manifest, but not as something that will happen, but as something that has already happened. Feel the emotion, the smell, the sound of your future. Live it in your mind as if it were real. And when you do that, the universe conspires in your favor. It organizes the events, the people, the synchronicities, so that your future becomes your reality. The Lazarus Effect is not about coming back from death, but about coming back to life. It's about escaping the prison of your mind and living as the limitless consciousness you truly are. You already have everything you need. You just need to remember. And your memory is the key to your freedom. So, take a deep breath, close your eyes, and ask yourself, who am I really? The answer may surprise you, and it will set you free. The journey to awaken your consciousness and live your most complete and free life begins with the courage to ask what most people are afraid to question. Stop worrying about death and start worrying about the life you are not living. The answer is within you, and the journey ahead of you. May you find your light.